Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us today. Today we'll be studying Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 6. The Yadu Dynasty retires to Prabhāsa. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Prabhu Premanande Hari Hari Bol Gantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Janant Kori Vaishnavind ki jai. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Mangala Chant prayers. We'll be saying it together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiryet. Shratam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Hirabhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Nashtaki.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us in the recitation of the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto, Chapter 6. The Yadu Dynasty retires to Prabhāsa. Shri Shuka Uvacha
Shri Shukuvacha
Ata Brahmatma Jayadeve
Atha Brahmatma Jayadeve
Prajesha Avrato Bhyagat
Prajasaravrato Bhayagat
Bhavascha Bhuta Bhavyesho
Bhavasya Bhut Bhavyesho
Yayo Bhuta Gane Vrataha.
Yayo Bhuta Ganevrata.
Please.
Shri Shukuvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Atha Brahmatma Jayadevaya
Ata Brahmatma Jayadeve
Prajesharavrato Bhyagat
Prajesharavrato Bhyagat
Bhavasya Bhuta Bhavyesha
Bhavascha Bhuta Bhavyesho
Yayo Bhut Ganer Vrata.
Yayo Bhuta Ganer Vrataha. Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Shukuvacha
Shri Shukdev Goswami said,
Shri Shukdev Goswami said,
Atha,
Atha
then Brahma,
Brahma,
Lord Brahma,
Lord Brahma,
Atma Jai,
Atma Jai,
by his sons headed by Sanak,
by his sons headed by Sanak,
Devahe,
Devai,
by the demigods,
by the demigods,
Praja Ishahe,
Praja Ishai,
and by the progenitors of universal population headed by Marichi.
and by the progenitors of the universal population headed by Marichi.
Avrataha,
Avrata,
surrounded. Abhyagat,
Abhyagat,
went to Dwarka.
went to Dwarka.
Bhavaha,
Bhava,
Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva,
Cha,
Cha,
also.
Bhuta,
To all living beings.
to all living beings.
Bhavya Isha hai,
Bhavya Isha,
the bestower of auspiciousness.
the bestower of auspiciousness.
Yayo,
Yayo
went.
went.
Bhuta
Bhut Gane,
by the hordes of ghostly creatures.
by the hordes of ghostly creatures.
Vrataha,
Vrata,
surrounded. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, Lord Brahma then set off for Dwarka, accompanied by his own sons, as well as the demigods and the great Prajapatis. Lord Shiva, the bestower of auspiciousness to all living beings, also went, surrounded by many ghostly creatures. There is no purport, so we'll cover the next verse. Verse 2 through 4, translation. The powerful Lord Indra, along with Maruts, Adityas, Vasus, Ashwinis, Ribhus, Angiras, Rudras, Vishwadevas, Sadhyas, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Siddhas, Charanas, Guhyakas, the great sages and forefathers, and the Vidyadharas and Kinnaras arrived at the city of Dwarka, hoping to see Lord Krishna. By his transcendental form, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Lord, enchanted all human beings and spread his own fame throughout the worlds. The Lord's glories destroy all contamination within the universe. Purport. The personality of Godhead descends within the material world to assist the demigods in the cosmic management. Thus, the demigods can normally see such forms of the Lord as Upendra. However, here it is indicated that although accustomed to seeing various Vishnu expansions of the Lord, the demigods were specifically eager to see the most beautiful form of the Lord as Krishna. Dehadehi vibhagascha naishvare vidyate kvachit. There is no distinction between the Supreme Lord and his personal body. The Jiva soul is different from his body, but the beautiful transcendental form of the Lord is identical with the Lord in all respects. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati prayers. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today, Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 6, we'll be discussing that just by chanting the glories of Lord Shri Krishna, we can overcome the insurmountable Maya. So how many of you are facing challenges? Not just with COVID-19, we are constantly being surrounded by challenges, right? We are surrounded with challenges in our relationships. We are surrounded with challenges when trying to survive in this material world. We are constantly facing challenges out of our own mind as how we perceive things, right? And we are also facing sometimes challenges as how people perceive us. So we're constantly surrounded by challenges, and to be able to overcome these challenges is a very simple process. Take shelter, because every time we are anxious, we are bewildered, take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna and have that one-on-one conversation with Lord Shri Krishna. We should express our challenges and just surrender all our challenges at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. And He is Yogeshwara. He is the Supreme Mystic Personality. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And He can easily eradicate all these challenges provided we surrender to Him. And this surrendering process simply starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So one of the main topic I wanted to bring up today is situation versus position. So in 11th Canto, Chapter 5, in the previous chapter, Sri Chamasa addressed one of the very challenging questions that King Nimi asked. That what is the destination? What is the result of people? What do they face, especially for those karmis? So he's referring to materialistic people who do not worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, to most of their life. Sometimes they don't surrender into the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, and they don't take to the process of devotional service. Rather, they are engaged in their materialistic activities, thinking that I am this body, and just to satisfy their senses, they are focusing everything. And Sri Chamasa, before even identifying what is the destination, he is first identifying that what is the behavior and what is their perception. And he clearly states that such people, instead of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's referring to the people who are in grahasthashram, householder life. So those householders, they are worshipping their wives. That's also another thing, which is where, Kali age. How do we see Kali age coming? So Kali personified in this age when he entered this advance after Dwapar age. When he advanced, he's pulling his mother, who's very old and white hair, by her hair. And he is seating his wife on his shoulder. And she's bedecked with all kind of ornaments, very nicely, like a newly wedded wife, like a Navavadhu form. Just newly wedded, very nicely, opulently. And he's keeping her on his shoulder. She is on his shoulder and he's dragging his mother. So this is also an effect of Kali age. And Shri Chamasa is addressing this particular question with response to the Kali age. And he's saying in this Kali age, people instead of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, people instead of honoring the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas and the devotees of the Lord, they are so much seeking their own sense gratification. And main activities they are Udarapast, right? Jiva, Udarapast. So these are the three areas which happen to be in the straight line. Our tongue, so they want to eat abominable things, not palatable things. Well, Srila Prabhupada, when he was identifying that in Burma, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, I'm talking about Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. He identified that in Burma, people, they used to have this kneel, which is, again, I'll describe what that is. And they were very fascinated with this preparation. While anytime the devotees were cooking, in clarified butter, in Shuddha ghee, right? These puris, kachoris, samosas and other things that they would offer to the Lordship, everyone in the neighborhood would come out and start shouting, saying, what is this abominable smell? Because to their nose, they liked abominable things, so they could not appreciate clarified butter, right? Means ghee and similar wonderful preparations. So they would find that smell as abominable. While they used to go with this nail, and how was this nail prepared? Every house had actually a pot outside. So if there was any animal that would die in the neighborhood, they would pick up that dead body of the animal and put it in the pot and leave it in there. And after 3-4 years, the body of that animal would disintegrate and come out with this liquid, jelly-like liquid. And anytime they even open the, remove the cover of the pot, the whole neighborhood would be, smelling, stinking with this abominable smell. But that was very relishing. So in important preparations that they would do on festivals and special occasions, they would put a few drops of this nail, making everything smell so bad. So it's all about perception. From their side, they would find the nice fresh foods, milk and milk preparations to be abominable. And from the devotee side, it is so that, these people are in this abominable situation. And in the Shastras, there is actually a reference that comes. That once Lord Brahma, he was very upset with Indra, the way Indra was dealing with other demigods and the sages. So he curses Indra to become a pig. So Indra becomes a pig, and after taking birth as a pig, he has a family and all. After some time, Lord Brahma says, maybe it was too harsh of me. Let me go and call him back. He cannot be in that abominable situation, right? So he goes to call back Indra. He says, so Indra has pig's body, and he has many piglets as his sons, and he has female pigs as his wives. And he says, no, I'm very happy. Lord Brahma is surprised. He's shocked. He's eating all kind of stool and abominable things, and he's thinking he's very happy with his pig wives and his piglets as his kids. So that is the influence of Maya, material energy. She influences one in such a manner that they think that whatever situation they are living in, they become so used to it that it starts becoming normal to them. That's why it is very important for us to, purify ourselves internally and externally, so we can see things as they are. And we can see the influence of Maya. And that's why Srila Prabhupada had been again and again stressing that one has to first come to the mode of goodness. Because in the mode of goodness, one is Shuchi. Shuchi means clean. And so when we are clean, cleanliness is next to godliness. Then we have a possibility of understanding who Lord Krishna is and how to serve Lord Krishna and engage in devotional service. So again, external cleanliness is important, and also internal cleanliness is very important. And internal cleanliness is done by the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So devotees, they understand that it is very important to purify ourselves. And so we engage in eating prasadam, we engage in glorifying lordships, we engage in serving the deities, we engage in having loving exchanges with the devotees, and we seek positive interaction. And anytime there is a negative interaction, we try to refrain from that, right? We don't want to do fault finding. Sometimes people challenge also. There are so many interesting scenarios where people, and this is based on situation, time, place and circumstances. So the whole, devotional service is oriented towards time, place and circumstances. Based on time, place and circumstances, what is it that we can do best? How can we, get people out from these abominable situations that they don't even realize that how abominable life, how they are suffering in this material world. Gauranga Das Prabhu, in one of his lectures, he was referring to this, that he was giving a lecture in a very affluent community. Everyone was like a millionaire there. And he was talking about that this material world is Dukhalayama Shashvata. It's a place of misery and it's temporary in nature. After some time, he realized that everyone, the host and all his friends, since they were from affluent, family of rich people, they were getting this feeling that this preacher is actually in a very miserable situation, not realizing that actually they were in the miserable situation. And Gauranga Das Prabhu is trying to, his grace, Gauranga Prabhu is trying to get the message across. But then it's very important for us to understand, to get that message across, we have to make them realize their abominable situation. So here, Lord Brahma, became merciful, and then he gave Indra his original form. And then Indra was shocked to see how abominable situation he was finding. That is very nice. That is the illusion of Maya. Material energy is so powerful that even though living entity, same in quality as Lord Shri Krishna, but minute in quantity. So Lord Krishna is like the ocean, we are just a drop of the ocean. Yet at the same time, same in quality means we are also Satchidanand. But when covered by Maya, when conditioned to think that I am this body, we behave as per the body that we have received. And this is what Sri Chamasa Rishi is identifying to Maharaj Nimi. Identifying that the influence of Maya is so much, and especially in this Kali age, it is so much, that people, they are looking to eat meat, drink, intoxication, engage in, sense gratification. Of them, the top is, sex and so many other abominable activities. And the message we get is that people are, dharma, earth, kama, moksha. So the four, and especially in householder life, these four aspects are covered as part of religiosity. Dharma is religions. Earth is also, dharma also is to be, religious activities or prescribed duties. And earth is economic development. So we, householders, we do job to earn money and so that we can sustain the family. But if we serve the Lordship, then the family is automatically sustained. And we do not over endeavor, just enough work to sustain ourselves. Over endeavor also causes fall down. Kama, we want to also have some entertainment. So devotees have a variety of entertainment, and then the materialists, people who are the non-devotees, have another variety of entertainment. We like to glorify Lord, we like to read Srimad Bhagavatam, we like to do kirtan, we like to dance. So Srila Prabhupada said that he has given us perfect recreation program. All we need to do is sing Lord's glories, read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, dance all day, do deity worship, eat wonderful prasadam, and relishable, really wonderful prasadam, and continue to repeat the cycle on and on. So we have very little effort to do to live in this manner. While materialists, they go on vacation and then they come back and saying that they are so tired of that vacation that they need a vacation from vacation. That's in material consciousness, because they are going for a vacation, so they are chasing a mirage, right? But after they achieve the spot where the mirage was,
They are saying there is no mirage. So they see the mirage, the reflection that there is water at some other distance. So they are constantly changing mirages, while devotees are under the oasis of Lord Shri Krishna's lotus feet. So that is Krishna consciousness. So here Chamasa Rishi he has identified, so I'm just covering quickly some of the regulations that he had identified at that time. And we'll also look at it from the eyes of the Shastras, Shakshus. From the vision of the scriptures, we'll be looking at it. So he talks about the various regulations provided as a concession in human society. And Srila Prabhupada stressed in his purports again and again. So wine is supposed to be consumed by smelling, not by drinking. Srila Prabhupada wrote in his purports earlier in Srimad Bhagavatam, various places, that wine is not to be consumed by drinking. Rather, wine was used to be spread on the path so that the whole area becomes aromatic. And those were aromatic wines, not abominable smelling wines. So there was some specific kind of, liquids that were sprayed to spread the aroma. So that was the way wines was meant to be consumed. But today, man is so bewildered that they are, doing all kind of intoxication and drink wines. And that causes a very harmful effects, very difficult conditions for them, and creates sinful conditions because they are not in their senses, they are not fully conscious of their surroundings, and they do all kind of things because now anger, greed, lust, they all take over. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsara. Lust, anger, greed, delusion, madness and envy, all they take over, all of them they take over. These are anarthas, these are the bad qualities, they overcome them. Then animal sacrifice was sanctioned for people who could not avoid, could not restrain their tongue from eating meat. But there was no provision of opening slaughterhouses. And in today's times, people have opened slaughterhouses. They have big, markets where they sell meats and so forth. And we hear that Wuhan is the place. It actually, this COVID-19 spread from the slaughterhouse, all these meat shops and all, and that's where it all spread. So we have reactions like those in that case. And then sex was permitted only in marriage life and also for progeny, not unrestricted sexes. So unrestricted sex is not permitted. Yet at the same time, today's society is becoming so bewildered that from the early age itself, boys and girls, they are mingling with each other. And this is where the important point comes in, that in Vedic society, a special stress was given in protecting women because women are like children. And Arjuna actually says that when all the men in the family are killed on this battlefield, I see all the main personalities, all the men from our dynasty and as well as all other kings are there. So if all of them are killed, then the women will not have anyone to protect them. And so they would be bewildered by the cheating people, and cheating men would bewilder them, and then Varna Sankara, the progeny will not be right. It will, a fallen down progeny will be there. So that sons and daughters will be produced, they will not be able to follow samskar. And samskars are very important. Samskars, of course, there are two ways you look at samskars. Samskars are impressions our mind has been carrying from many millions of lives. So that causes us to act the way we act in this material world. And then the second kind of samskar is the samskars, regulations, the prohibitions, inhibitions, as well as rules that we take on in this life to lead a life and to improve ourselves. So that introspection, we should always be introspecting, looking back, what did I do yesterday? What did I do last week? What did I do last month? Where am I heading, right? If you're heading south, there is no way you'll reach the north part. So you have to understand, you have to see which direction am I heading. So that is based on situation. Position is sometimes something that you have already been given, right? We have been given human body. Now this is position. So this position of having received a human body is a great benediction, because it is only in the human life that we receive the intelligence, we receive the abilities, like we can speak language, we can interact with each other, and be able to transfer messages back and forth, to be able to convey our thoughts in the form of various languages is more important than what language we are speaking. That's also another thing. That reminds me of a very nice story. There was a mouse, a female mouse. She was living in a farm, like hidden in a hole, and she had a small baby mouse, and they were living together. And one day, the son says, "Mother, let's go out. We have been stuck in here in this farm because of COVID-19 for far too long. Let's go out and take a small trip. Not far, just outside the farm. We'll cover 1-2 farms and we'll come back." So as soon as they come out of the farm, what do they see? There was a cat waiting for them, just to devour them, waiting, And she sees this, the mother mouse and the baby mouse, and she's happy. Her eyes are shining. At that time, the baby mouse just hides behind the mother mouse. And mother mouse looks at the cat and says, "Woof, woof, bark, bark." And immediately the cat hears this and runs away. So sometimes it's important to have the second language. So having second language is always useful, but having a language is meaning we should be able to convey the message. Not just get stuck with this is the language. Because if we really want to get stuck with the language, then Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, they appeared in Sanskrit. Then we should just be speaking in Sanskrit, because even speaking in Hindi or any other Indian regional language or any other European language would be injustice, right? The important part is message. So Srila Prabhupada, when he was giving, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj writes in his book, The Ocean of Mercy, that Srila Prabhupada, when he was giving his class, afterwards there was a Bengali elderly gentleman. He was asking the question in Bengali and Srila Prabhupada was responding in Hindi. So this elderly gentleman said, "I'm asking you a question in Bengali and why are you responding it in Hindi?" Srila Prabhupada conveyed the message very simply. He said, "Well, I'm giving you the response. You can understand the response. That should be the criteria." So I'm paraphrasing some of the words. But the important thing is, are we able to get the message or not? So yes, of course, sometimes we have attraction towards a specific language. That's good. But that doesn't mean that the message has to be in this language. If somebody says, "Watch out, don't step forward because there is a landmine," right? That doesn't mean we won't listen to the message. We will listen to the message, not because it's not in our language, the language we like to hear in, we will ignore it and step on the landmine. That would be stupidity. So we should be intelligent enough. And this intelligence comes with great responsibility. That how are we spending the time? We have received this great gift, right? And it comes with responsibility that we have to use it for the purpose it has been given. That purpose is to engage in Lord Krishna's service. Because everything belongs to Him and has been provided for His service, not for our enjoyment. That is first level of realization, that I am not this body, I am a spirit soul, and the constitutional position of the soul, the living entity, is Krishna Nityadas, eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. And that we can start doing simply by praying to the Lordship, so that we can come to our true realization. And it is such a wonderful process of calling out to the Lordship to engage us in devotional service. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So it was very important that when Arjun says that having men at home is important, because then the ladies who are like children, women are like children, and they need proper protection. So Vedic society was not about masters or slavery. Yes, afterwards the caste system and all the convoluted and the practices went downhill, right? So because of that, there were some wrong practices. So it's better to correct the practices instead of rejecting the practices altogether. The essence should be preserved. And in the Vedic literature, Srila Prabhupada in many of his purports have revealed that when their girls, young girls are given the protection under their father. When they are married, they are protected by their husbands. And when they have grown up sons, then they are protected by their sons. And this way, a woman is always provided protection. She is not suppressed. Think of it this way. If they were suppressed, then we cannot be talking about Adityas or Daityas. Adityas are the sons of Aditi. And they are known as sons of Aditi. Daityas are the sons of Diti. They are known by their mother, Daityas, sons of Diti. And both of them have same father, Kashyapa Muni. So it's also very important for us to understand from that perspective. Now, one of the other things that has been identified, that when they are provided protection, it enables them to soar to that great height, because they were dedicated to their husband Kashyapa Muni, Aditi and Diti, and all other sisters who are married to Kashyapa Muni. So women, when they are wives, they are very much dedicated to their husband. And the husbands have the responsibility to not just take care of them, but also to see that they spiritually advance. So this is very important for family to get together and do various discourses together, chant together. The family that chants together stays together. So that is an important thing. Sankirtan Yajna is the Yajna of this age. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prophecy, Srila Prabhupada brought it to life, but only partially. He said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prophecy was that in every town and village and every streets, my name would be chanted. So yes, Srila Prabhupada brought it to every town and village, but every street is still pending. So that is up to you to bring it to your street. Start chanting at your home. And that is a simple way to overcome this difficult situation in this material world. The situation we are all facing, and we can easily overcome this material energy. Lord Krishna says, Devi he isha gurumai mama maya duratyaya mame vye prapadyante maya me tam tarantite. Devi he isha gurumai mama maya duratyaya. Lord Krishna says, this material energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. She is made up of the three modes of material nature. Mode of goodness, sattva guna; mode of passion, rajoguna; mode of ignorance, tamoguna. Ma me vye prapadyante maya me tam tarantite. But those who surrender unto me can easily cross over it. And surrendering process is chanting of the holy name. And that's a prayer to engage in devotional service and also devotional service. So we have covered that earlier as well. So regarding this protection which is related to the situation, so our bodies that we have received, so each one of us, whoever is a father, who is an elder brother, which is almost considered to be the position of a father, we have this responsibility. Elder sister, they have this responsibility to take care of the younger ones. And we are considered, because of our very position we have been put in, we are considered gurus, right? Spiritual masters. So when a baby is born, parents are natural spiritual masters. It's given in Nectar of Devotion, it's given in Bhakti Rasamrita. Many scriptures talk about this. So sometimes this position aspect comes in. So the position already is determined. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jara dekha tahe kaha Krishna upadesh. So whoever you see, whenever you see, you discuss the glories of Lord Shri Krishna. And his message is that you become Guru by glorifying Lord Shri Krishna, spreading the message of Lord Shri Krishna and his disciples, of course, and his devotees. So why did I say disciple? Because Lord Shri Krishna is the Adi Guru, right? And Adi Guru also expansion of Lord Shri Krishna, not different from his Lord Balaram. So Lord Krishna is said to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Lord Balaram sometimes is called out as Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead as Adi Guru. And we also see Nityananda Prabhu as Adi Guru, not different from Lord Baldev. So why is this protection important? Is being stressed by this story. Once there was a father and a son, they were going to a kite festival. So the kite festival, the son was really fascinated looking at all these colorful kites in the sky, and he expressed this desire to his father. Father, I would also like to fly a kite. So father goes to the kite shop and he gets a kite and a spool of thread. So they tie it together, and the son starts flying the kite. It's soaring high in the sky, and the spool finishes, right? So normally when the spool finishes and the kite wants to continue to rise higher, that is where a limit comes. That this is the limit, this is the maximum we can do. So instead of getting another spool, the kid, he was very mature, so it says that, Dad, I want the kite to go higher. So maybe we need to cut this thread. So by cutting the thread, the kite will soar high. The father doesn't say anything. he gives his son a scissor, and the son uses the scissor to cut off the thread. As soon as the son cuts off the thread, it seems like the kite is going high because there is this wind and the initial direction is there. So it seems like it's going high, but soon it loses its direction and starts going down, and it goes, on the roof of some unknown person. And the child is bewildered. He said, I cut the thread, but it's not able to soar higher. It seemed that it soared, but then afterward it fell down. So Father explains that this is what happens. Sometimes we think that by giving freedom, we are allowing them to increase, but being childish, it causes them to get bewildered. Women get bewildered. And without the proper protection, they become more they become more unhappy. And sometimes they become more arrogant, and they become more hard-hearted, and they become more proud. And all these qualities are actually bad qualities. And they started looking faults in others, and they start, the tendency just changes. And instead of doing constructive criticism, they are just looking at criticism as an aspect. And so many factors have been identified in the Shastras. Yet at the same time, interestingly, many men, instead of realizing that this solution should have been to add another thread from another spool, which is to enable them to soar higher by providing more guidance, by building more qualification on our side so we can provide, further direction to them. They try to keep them bound with that, tied the last piece onto the spool. So that is also not desirable, because then the kite that can soar so high, so a woman who can soar so high in their spiritual progress are limited because of the environment being restrictive. So that should also not be the case. So it's not right to cut it, it's not also right to hold it just like that, rather to get another spool, to build another, to create an environment where they can further grow, provided the protection is there. So that's an important message that Chamasam Muni is expressing. And that gambling is supposed to be done, it was supposed to be meant only for Kshatriyas, and that's also as an alternative to the battles and all. And when challenged, a Kshatriya could not deny it, but it's not meant for everyone. And Kala Shudra Sambhava, anyone who has taken birth in this Kali age is a Shudra. And finally, with samskaras, but accepting different samskaras, they can rise to a higher level. And Srila Prabhupada, in his purpose, he said that you cannot rubber stamp people. So sometimes we see this tendency even in the society, that people are just being rubber stamped. He's a leader, he's not a leader. He's a teacher, he's not a teacher. Well, everyone who's preaching Lord Krishna's message is a teacher. Everyone is making an effort to glorify Lord Shri Krishna, and sharing these glories with others is a teacher, is following Srila Prabhupada's and disciplic successions as per the instructions of the Acharyas. So they are following. So that is situation. So that situation aspect is different. It's not a position aspect. And Srila Prabhupada said that, in India, after independence was achieved, and Britishers were driven out of India, at the time he named all these people who were from the backward class as Harijan. And Srila Prabhupada said that you cannot rubber stamp people. Harijan means people who are devotees of Lord Shri Krishna. And you just cannot rubber stamp people who are not devotees of Lord Shri Krishna. And rather, it actually causes people to get bewildered. They don't want to associate because of the wrong use of a term. They don't want to be associated with that term anymore. Harijan is actually a very glorified term. But because it has been used to rubber stamp a class of people who are not even devotees, it causes big confusion and it causes an imbalance in society. So rubber stamping is never good. And rubber stamping is more like creating position. Positions are created by Lord Shri Krishna. Situations are created by Lord Shri Krishna. And in various situations, how you behave, that determines the role you take on. And that's what determines what you are, not by rubber stamping someone that this person is a leader. So we see that a lot in the society happening, as well as in various nations. People say, and again, from managers versus leaders, this concept is always there. So they keep confusing people, and that's going on. Hare Krishna. Welcome. So, I just wanted to cover this important part of the lessons that I did not get a chance to cover in 11.5. So it's very important to understand that we have to keep an open mind, look at the Shastras, look at the instructions of the Acharyas as they have explained, and women have as much capability as men. Mirabai, when she was visiting Vrindavan, she wanted to have conversation with Jiva Goswami, and some of the disciples, when they expressed that there's this nice incident, Srila Prabhupada said, well, Jiva Goswami, even though he was a sannyas, he would never deny meeting with Mirabai. But there was a very interesting message that was conveyed in there. That Mirabai, as per the this incident was expressed and shared with Srila Prabhupada, the disciple said that when Mirabai sent her follower to Jiva Goswami, so she was actually a guru. Her follower, her disciple came to Jiva Goswami saying that she would like to meet him, and Jiva Goswami responded that a sannyasi does not meet a woman. And then her response was that she believed that there is only one Purush, one male, that's Lord Shri Krishna. Everyone else is a female. So yes, we are also Parakrit Shakti. We are a female potency of Lord. And so is Maya Devi, right? Mahamaya, or Goddess Durga. She is also, female Shakti of Lord, feminine potency, feminine energy. And similarly, feminine, right? So she is also a woman. And also internal potency, Radharani, also a woman. So there is only one Purusha, and all the Purusha expansions, they are also called as Swamshas expansions. So they are all Vishnu Tattvas. And then Vibhinnamshas are us, living entities. And then Shakti Tattvas are all Mahamaya and Yogmaya and Radharani and so forth. So we are also female from that perspective. Just because we are thinking that women cannot become something, it's because we are conditioned in that case. It is same as saying I'm an Indian, I'm an American, I'm a man, I'm a woman. It's the same way of looking at it. We have to go beyond it, understand that in the Shastras, after Mahaprabhu went away, he went back to his abode, Nityananda Prabhu was not there, Advaitacharya was not there, it was Janva Devi, the consort of Nityananda Prabhu. She was the guru of gurus, right? So understand from the proper perspective. Don't get emotionally attached. Yes, there are some restrictions given in the Shastras that women gurus would not accept male disciples. Now that's a different injunction. And there are perfect reasons also. So let's not try to violate those also. Right? Women, gurus would normally be of gurus, so they would have, or they would normally have, women or children disciples early on. And they can grow up to further progress Krishna consciousness. So today's story is all about the Yadu Dynasty retiring to Prabhāsa. So here the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, his sons, they are all coming, the Chaturkumaras and the various rishis from Satyalok, the great sages are coming as well. Lord Shiva, his consort, as well as all his Bhutganas, they are coming as well. Lord Indra, king of the demigods, along with all other demigods, they all come to Dwarka. Why are they coming to Dwarka? Because they have understood that this curse is actually an indication that Lord Krishna is going back to his abode. So they come to worship Lord Shri Krishna. They want to take his last darshan, right? So when someone is, departing, at that time we go and visit them, right? If someone has been in our neighborhood, very dear to us, and especially what to talk about Lord Shri Krishna, he is our worshipable, deity. So they all go and they worship Lord Shri Krishna. So first, as they go to Dwarka and Lord Krishna, Lord Vasudeva, he is appearing in his beautiful transcendental form, they garland him, they worship him. Now, as they are garlanding him and they're worshipping him, there are many interesting aspects that they are discussing, that, oh, our dear Lord, that you are so wonderful, that you have taken care of this burden of the earth, you have removed the burden of the earth. And so the demigods, they are, worshipping Lord Shri Krishna, Lord Vasudeva. He's in his transcendental form. And all the Yadavas are watching this. It's not that, this was done in seclusion. So this is given in the Shastras that in presence of everyone, all the residents of Dwarka, he was being worshipped, and as he is worshipped, there's some interesting aspects they come in. And Lord Brahma, when he's praying, and all the demigods as they are praying, they are saying that, oh our dear Lord. So these were from the heavenly gardens. They had received these flowers of these garlands. They were made of these from the heavenly gardens. They were made from those flowers, so they were always fresh. Yet it is expressed in purport by the acharyas, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Sridhar Swami. Their commentary has this, that when he was garlanded, they are saying, and actually Shukdev Goswami also says this, is that they were saying that Goddess Lakshmi may be offended because of the withered flowers that we are offering you. And they're saying it in a joking mode, because they know that Goddess Lakshmi is present in the, as white curly hair on the chest. So she's residing on Shivatsa, is that white curly hair on the chest of the Lord. So she is residing as Shivatsa. And Vatsam is chest, and she is goddess of fortune. So she is residing on the chest of Lord Shri Krishna. So they are saying that she may be offended. You are not offended. You are so merciful that you accept everything. Now this reminds of the incident of Bhrigu Muni, who had actually kicked to find out who of the three personalities is the topmost personality. And the criteria was who is most tolerant is the topmost personality. And it was seen that Lord Vishnu, when he was offended by the body, actions of the body, performed by the body, by kicking onto the chest, and yet at the same time he immediately got up and bowed down to Bhrigu Muni and started massaging his legs, saying that my chest is so strong, like a vajra, it's like thunder, it's very strong. So your feet must have been hurt. And Bhrigu Muni, he was overwhelmed with emotions. His voice was choked, he was crying, seeing this response of Lord Shri Krishna, Lord Vishnu. So this is also reminding everyone of, like, Lord Krishna is so merciful that even the goddess of fortune may take offense, but Lord Krishna does not take offense. So this is where Lord is more merciful than mother. So can you imagine? If father is more merciful than mother, then we have perfect guarantee to be able to overcome any tough situation or difficult situation we may be in. So if we have any challenges, we can approach to Mother Radha. But if Lord Krishna is already so much more merciful than Mother Radha, then what to talk about it? That's all glorious. And then they are talking about like how a bull is extremely powerful. Yet by the putting nose through the nose of this bull, it can easily be controlled. Now this metaphor can be used in three different ways. First is that, oh dear Lord, how easily you are able to remove the burden of the earth. That's first reference. You are able to control all these demons and you are able to send them back home, yet at the same time now the burden of earth has been released. Second is that the living entities are under the control of Maya, because Maya has conditioned them with these bodies, which is like putting a nose through the nose. So that is also one of the conditions. And the third one is that how Lord is constantly bewildering everyone by his ways. He's performing his Lilas, right, his pastimes, as how he's using the curse of the Brahmanas to take away all the Yadavas who are his eternal associates. So all the Yadavas are Lord's eternal associates, yet at the same time we also know that many of the Yadavas were actually demigods who has taken birth in the dynasty of Yadu. So in this dynasty there were many demigods, and because all the Yadavas and the residents of Dwarka, they had almost the same potency, being backed by Lord Krishna's potency. So son has all the potency that his father has, right? Because he has complete backing of his father. So similarly, because they had backing of Lord Shri Krishna, they had almost same level of potencies. And in that, they got bewildered and they could not realize that Lord Krishna is the Supreme. They could not appreciate Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They considered Lord Krishna almost to be their equal. So these demigods cannot be taken back to spiritual personality, spiritual world, because they have not come to the true realization that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. So that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one who realizes that is a great soul, and it is very difficult to find such a soul. So many of these demigods have to be sent back to their positions in the heavenly planets. So that has also been identified. And as they are glorifying Lord Shri Krishna as Lord Krishna, now that they are talking about this example and how you bewilder everyone, they are saying that in your previous incarnations, when you appeared as Vaman Dev, and how you cheated Bali Maharaj. Now, they are putting only their perspective from demigods, but we know from the Shastras, as Shukdev Goswami explains, and the Acharyas make it so easy to understand, that that cheating was more to actually glorify Bali Maharaj. It was to glorify how tolerant Bali Maharaj is. And we talked about the difference between tolerance and courage. Tolerance is when you are in a higher position and you take a position in favor of another person, even though it may be against you. Courage is when you are suppressed and you rise yourself, with, different qualities. You rise above. So that's courage. So for example, a student who's not doing very well in the exam, he rises above and starts showing great results. So that's courage. Tolerance is when a child is not engaging in devotional service and the parents are constantly making an endeavor that please take to devotional service, please take to devotional service, yet tolerating all impudence of the child. And best way is for such parents is to just pray to the Lordship. Oh Lord, please make my son your devotee. That's an easier prayer. So His Holiness Srila Giriraj Maharaj, he shares this, that when he was doing Krishna consciousness, when he met Srila Prabhupada first time, he was still, he was getting introduced, and his questions were more from the Mayavad perspective. And Srila Prabhupada, when he responded to Giriraj Maharaj's question, he said, do you want to become God or do you want to become a devotee of God? And that time Giriraj Maharaj was reminded of the picture he had in his room back in the college time that talked about you can become God. So Mayavad philosophy is what he was. And after some time he realized it with the Devotees Association. He joined one of the ISKCON centers. And when Srila Prabhupada came to that temple, he looked at Giriraj Maharaj, and Giriraj Maharaj was always wondering how did he get into Krishna consciousness. So at that time Srila Prabhupada, he revealed that I was looking at this young boy, I was looking at this nice boy, he looked very sincere, and I was praying to Lord Shri Krishna, please make him a devotee. Oh Lord Shri Krishna, please make him a devotee. And at that time, His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj realized that it was by the prayers of Srila Prabhupada that he was able to become a devotee, and such a staunch devotee that now he is leading further where Srila Prabhupada, left the moment, and he is progressing ahead on the path of Srila Prabhupada's instructions and so forth. So all these demigods, they are praising Lord Shri Krishna. So again, Bali Maharaj's incident was not of less of cheating, more of glorifying Bali Maharaj. So that even after everything was taken by Bali Maharaj, from Bali Maharaj, Vamana gave him Sutala planets, which was more glorious, more opulent than the heavenly planets. And he himself became the doorkeeper of Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj, he may have lost all the fortune in the world, but he won over Lord Shri Krishna. Where is the loss? Because Goddess of Fortune is always ready to render service at Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Lakshmi Sahastra Shata Sambramya Sevyamanam. There are hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis, goddesses of fortune, who are serving Lord in the spiritual planets with love, with devotion. They're constantly, with great affection and care, they are serving Lord Shri Krishna. So, what to talk about this, a goddess of fortune in this material universe, of many, many universes. They are ready. So again, he has won over Lord Shri Krishna. So that is glorious. By his tolerance, he was in a superior position, but he agreed to go along with Lord's will. So when we accept Lord's will, that is most important. Instead of trying to use speculation, we should just accept Lord's will. Accept the instructions of the previous acharyas. understand from the perspective of the scriptures, not try to speculate. Again, what bewilders me is sometimes when Lord Dattatreya talks about the 24 gurus, and Shukdev Goswami, when talking about that, Lord Dattatreya accepts pigeon as his guru. And Shukdev Goswami says the foolish pigeon thought. It surprised me. If it's a guru, how could it be foolish? Right? The important aspect is that Lord Dattatreya is expressing that he was able to derive an instruction to progress spiritually, looking at the example of this pigeon. That's why he called this pigeon as guru. Bilva Mangal Thakur had relationship before he went over to Vrindavan with Chintamani. She was, and Bilva Mangal Thakur, when he went, thinking, in a stormy night, he went and he crossed the river holding a dead body, thinking that it's a wood log. He climbed the window thinking she has put a rope, but it was a snake which was clutched onto the windowsill. And he got in, and when she makes him realize that he has all the ash from the dead body, and he actually came up not with a rope but rather with a snake. And she said, if you had so much dedication to Lord Hari, you would have attained perfection. So when she said that, Bilva Mangal Thakur, he amazingly had a realization. So even though his attraction was towards this woman, right, as a prostitute, yet at the same time he calls her his guru because she showed him the path how to approach Lord Shri Krishna. So that's also very important. So one who shows us the path is also very important, and that instruction is more important than identifying with the body as where this instruction is coming from. Srila Prabhupada, he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, you should go on a morning walk daily. Now this doctor didn't have any qualification, but Srila Prabhupada understood the instruction, because this body that we have received is actually a blessing of Lord Shri Krishna. So we are all responsible to make sure that we take care of this body. And he made it his regular practice that every morning he would go on for morning walk. And many times he would do japa, many times he would have morning walk talks. And we discussed so many of his teachings that came from his morning walks, where various guests were talking to Srila Prabhupada, his disciples were talking to Srila Prabhupada, and sometimes innocent people, first time they were meeting Srila Prabhupada, and how Srila Prabhupada interacted with the other living entities, not just human beings, but also how he interacted with dog, how he tamed a monkey, and so forth. So many stories are there. We learn so much. So now here, it is very important for us to understand that when the demigods are glorifying, they are further glorifying Lord Shri Krishna, that how wonderful he is. The Lord is wonderful, yes. So it's always good to know that God is great. But sometimes we should appreciate him by saying how great he is. We should know about this. And also they're glorifying as Lord, you appeared as Mahavishnu, and you appear in the form of Vishnu. You promised that you would deliver the burden of this earth. So we are so happy. And Lord Brahma actually prays that now that you have completed the task, you go back. So it appears like he is giving instruction that now it's time for you to go back, we don't need you anymore. And now that would be very harsh to hear, right? That is not his intention. He is actually appreciating Lord Shri Krishna. That, my dear Lord, you are so merciful that you have performed. And now that we have come to know that there is a curse, we understand that it is all your arrangement that you have made so that you can take all your eternal associates with you back home, back to Godhead. And after all these prayers, the demigods leave. Now, Lord Krishna, by his potency, he makes it appear as if there are disturbances in Dwarka. Because he cannot take everyone from Dwarka, because if he takes everyone from Dwarka, then he cannot send the demigods back to the heavenly planets, their positions they came from. Because they were not purified enough, many of them, so they had to be sent back to their positions. So Lord makes an arrangement. He says we should all go to Prabhāsa. And that's where we'll perform a yajna, and that way we'll be able to overcome this curse. Now, everyone's focus was on this curse, right? So they accepted whatever Lord Krishna said. So it is very interesting that Lord Krishna is making such an arrangement that he is adjusting everything, he is satisfying everything. And Prabhāsa is where on the outskirts at the ocean front is where those the grounded sand that contained the powder of the club that was part of the curse. So that club was grounded over and that was thrown in the ocean and that had come onto the shore at Prabhāsa, and that's where it had grown as canes. So Lord Krishna has to bring everywhere because that would be the cause of annihilation. But in reality, what actually is happening is that Lord takes all his associates, but this martial Lila is to bewilder the materialists, the non-devotees, to make them believe that Yadavas, they were drunkards and they fought with each other, they killed each other, and this is their end. But in reality, Lord Krishna used this, with the help of his Yoga Maya and Mahamaya. So he actually employed Mahamaya also in this. Because when Jara, he shoots the arrow, so Lord Krishna on his right knee, he was placing his left foot. So the heel was there. And it appeared from behind the tree. So it's very interesting. Lord Krishna was sitting under a tree, beneath a tree, and so his heel was visible, his foot was visible. And because of the red kumkuma, because of that lotus powder shape, it appeared from a distance, and it was almost a mile away that Jara hunter, he shot that arrow, it is said in the scriptures. That when he shot the arrow thinking that this is a deer, and that came, Lord Krishna uses the illusory energy Maya to create a body like his own. And this arrow hits that body. So that body gets killed, while Lord Krishna along with his associate, he returns back. But before everyone has gone to Prabhāsa, as soon as Uddhav comes to know, because Lord Krishna had called some senior citizens of Dwarka, he did not call Uddhav. So he was not invited to this trip to Prabhāsa. And he understood that Lord Krishna was to take all his associates back home, back to Godhead. So Uddhav, he approaches Lord Shri Krishna that please take me with you. I would like to come with you. And that has been given in this picture. So there is this nice picture. Now one of the things that doesn't do justice in this picture is that Uddhav used to dress exactly like Lord Shri Krishna. So here in this picture, he is shown to be wearing different clothes as Lord Shri Krishna. He never wore different clothes. He wore only the clothes that Lord Krishna discarded. And as Lord Krishna, as Vasudeva, he wore yellow garments, right? And Uddhav is not shown wearing yellow garments. So maybe sometime in future we'll have another painting where Uddhav will be shown, wearing and appearing very much like Lord Shri Krishna. So they looked very much identical. And because Uddhav was dressing just like Lord Shri Krishna, so he bows down to Lord Shri Krishna and Lord Shri Krishna gives him instructions. So in this chapter, the instruction Lord Shri Krishna is saying is that you have to, don't stay here. He's talking about the effect of Kali age. He says 7 days from now, this whole Dwarka city will be, under the ocean. So the ocean is going to engulf this Dwarka. The waters are going to take. What's actually happening is that is from the Bhaume Lila perspective, that's from the materialistic perspective. But from a spiritual perspective, it is already situated spiritually in the spiritual world. It's only manifested on earth as Dwarka. So that is preserved as is and doesn't appear here. Just so that, for example, if you have a pot and you see sun's reflection in it, okay, you're seeing sun's reflection. Now you remove the pot, now you can't see sun's reflection. That doesn't mean sun is not there, sun is still there. So similarly, Dwarka is there, but Uddhav, he is given the instruction that he should go to Bhadrika Ashram and he should take the message of Lord Shri Krishna. So this is where Uddhav Gita starts. So the first 6 chapters, especially this chapter is like where Uddhav Gita is starting, the instructions are starting, the initial instruction for Uddhav. They are starting. So from here till 29th is Uddhav Gita in 11th canto. And we'll be reading Uddhav Gita much more. But the main request Uddhav has is, oh Lord, please take me with you in the spiritual world. So he wants to go to the spiritual world and he is heartbroken that Lord Krishna is not taking him to the spiritual world. And similarly, Shukdev Goswami, when he is narrating this, he is expressing it so beautifully because he was pet of Radharani, Shuka. Shuka also means parrot. So Radharani had a parrot pet and that was Shuk. And so when Radharani was going back home, back to Godhead, at that time the parrot wanted to go with her, but she said, no, you should just listen to Lord Krishna's glories, Srimad Bhagavatam. And so Shukdev Goswami, who was in the parrot form, he went to Kailash. And there Lord Shiva was, reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to Mother Parvati, Ma Durga. So when he was reciting, what had happened was Mother Parvati, after hearing sometimes, she had fallen asleep. So Shukdev Goswami in the form of parrot was in the, hidden in the tree under which Lord Shiva. So in her voice he was saying, okay, huh. So that way Lord Shiva would continue. He was feeling that Mother Parvati is listening. So again, that's another set of stories we have covered many times. So Shukdev Goswami had a purpose, right? He had to come, in his human-like form and give the Srimad Bhagavatam, recite the Srimad Bhagavatam at the bank of the Ganges to Parikshit Maharaj, and then he attains perfection to go back home, back to Godhead. So Lord Krishna is so merciful that he allows his pure devotees to engage in his pastimes and also give them various tasks. So that's a great privilege to have. So Uddhav is given a similar task to go to Badrika Ashram to engage in devotional service and take on a message for Narayana Rishi. So that's also there. And we'll discuss that after Uddhav Gita is there, because that is beautiful, beautiful pastimes related to Uddhav going. Actually, we already covered some of them in the third canto where Uddhav meets Vidur, in the second canto, I believe. He meets Vidur and he helps Vidur realize that even though Lord Krishna has left this material world, he is always present spiritually, and how Vidur can become a realized soul. And Vidur was ready to accept Uddhav as his spiritual master. Now again, Uddhav was in a position, but that was not the right situation. So Uddhav, realizing that Vidur is very elderly, worshipable even for him, he instructs Vidurji to go to Haridwar and take shelter of Maitreya Muni. Because the instruction, Uddhav Gita, was not just spoken to Uddhav. Maitreya Muni also, by Lord's will, happened to have come at the same place, and he heard the whole Uddhav Gita as well. So again, that is there as how both of them attain the knowledge, but Uddhav, based on the situation, makes a proper judgment. Today people are so much driven into position. He is a leader, he is not a leader. They are not looking at the situation. Situation is something which Lord creates, and position is also that Lord provides. We should not use it whimsically as per our limited understanding. What is our intelligence? Pure intelligence in front of unlimited, lordship. So we should be very careful, because we may be offending, the previous acharyas and other Vaishnavas in the process. So again, it is very important for us to understand that we should take as much time as glorifying Lord Shri Krishna, read Srimad Bhagavatam, read Bhagavad Gita as it is, that we have been provided, read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So many wonderful scriptures are there. Prabhupada books are there, Padma Puran, Vishnu Puran, so many Puranas are there and so forth. So please take the time, because it is by chanting only we can easily cross over this material world. And it all starts with calling out to the Lordship. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So please join us for Narasimha Devati.
Namaste
थे भगवान की जय, प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कौरि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय गौ प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल।
हरि
हरे
बोल।
कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा।